So Aries Ascendant. So this is the new season starting today as we're going into the sign of Cancer. Now, the way I've laid out this chart is to really really give you the idea of these four sides of the zodiac, these four different pieces of a puzzle. And, no doubt at this point of the year, you're always working on very, very similar things. There is a natural rhythm to your cycle. Where your fresh start is right now is in terms of focusing on your home and family, and then the kind of wellness and the joy that comes from family and home. This is a time when it's almost necessary to come back to the beginning, come back to your roots, and to find joy in the simpler sides of life. And I wonder if you notice that happens this time every year, that you start to drift back into the family fold a little bit more. You want to relax a little bit more. You want to feel a lot more homebound. Now, one of the great things about this is when you are home and when you're starting to relax, it's almost like, if we think about it, let's consider what you've been completing in the last season. And this was high octane, highly individual, highly challenging. This season, from around the time of your birthday, right the way through to literally just yesterday, this is the time when you're doing your most development work every year. It's a time when you're absolutely really looking at who you are in terms of your identity and how far you've come, how you appeal to others, how you appear to others. It's a lot of learning. And given that you've also got the North Node going through your own sign, it's a lot more dramatic in this year than it's been for many years. So everything about your identity has been really quite critical in this last season. It's been probably quite exhausting, and with that comes, how you're earning your money, which is like the next extension from your identity. Like you realize who you are, you start to express who you are, which creates value to which you're kind of gifted, or you're receiving some kind of feedback and possibly some kind of money for your gifts. And then you're in the marketplace. These are the very three first houses of the chart, which are very, very busy, very individualistic, and it's non-stop. It just feels like there's so much learning going on. Now you're at this point of a pause. And as I said that, I felt myself just get really calm, because that's really the first part of this season, is to recognize that it's time to slow down. It's time to put your feet up. You can't really keep running just as fast as you've been running, up till now. It really is time to just slow right down and to reconnect with where you've come from, because it's almost like you got up on your feet so fast. And like I said, with the North Node going through your first house, it's a lot more personal in this year than it has been in recent years. So, you've been up running, you've been challenging yourself, you've been trying to better yourself a lot more than usual. But now it's time to remember where you come from. Why is that so important? Well, I think, because you've been working so hard on who you are, you've forgotten that actually who you are is the child of somebody, the grandchild of somebody. You are standing on the shoulders of giants, believe it or not. Whether you get on with your parents and your grandparents, your great grandparents, however it's working in your life, you are still the product of all of those upbringings. You are the leading edge of consciousness of your family line right now. And I always think that gives you a really good idea of the trajectory, how far you've come, how far you've strayed, have you changed the format somewhat. And we all need to just sometimes come back into the familiarity, the pattern of where we're coming from, get back into our groove, get back into our recipe. Even if we don't like it, but just to experience it for a moment, because it's almost like putting the car into neutral. It's coming to that pause, and it's coming to that rest, and at some level it's picking up on your DNA, it's picking up on your original recipe, your original blueprint. And so, yeah, in this next month ahead, I do think you're going to be resting a lot more. And hopefully you might be able to enjoy it in quite a celebratory way. So even if you're not with family, I mean, you might not actually have any instinct or desire to see your family at all, who knows? But you may well consider, who are your current family? Like, who do you love being with the most? How do you feel at home the most? These are all like the biggest questions that you're really answering for yourself. And, you know, from that, the energy then naturally takes place of it starts to birth more. You know, as you start to get comfortable in yourself, as your body starts to heal itself, as your body starts to almost stretch into a new possibility, these feelings of creativity come up. And, you know, it's very much about celebrating the life that you're living. It's about feeling joy. The fifth house is a bit of a party house. You know, it's where we're birthing new opportunities to feel greater joy, to feel greater ease, and to explore what makes us happy, explore what we love doing, explore what we love doing with the people we love doing it with, which is why it's quite a sexy house as well, and quite an intimate place. And also where we might be birthing children or parenting children. It represents our children. So, you know, if you are a parent, the chances are, and it just so happens that for you, you know, this parenting time also coincides with the summer holidays. That could be a real big thing for you if you're a parent. But, you know, it's not just about the children. It's about you expressing joy. So, you know, what you could do right now, if you chose to, is think, okay, how much joy have I had over the last 3 months? No, not much. How much time have I given over to my joy? How much time have I given over to me developing something just for me? You know, if you could answer that, or if you could describe some of the things you'd love to do, the things that might light you up. And sometimes it's quite useful to remember who you are, you know, from going back into your family or considering your past, considering your childhood, because it reminds you of the things that used to light you up. And so you might plan in some time to do that. Where does this go then? You know, this is really leading you into your sixth house of experience as you come to the end of the season. And one of the things that is quite significant about that is, you know, once you start moving again. So, you know, what I see with this chart is springtime always coincides with you running ahead and really galloping off into the future, and then getting a bit worn out. And so then you start loving yourself a bit more, paying a bit more attention to your home experience. And then you start naturally feeling creative again. You're quite a creative being. You're quite a direct and responsive person that loves to do stuff, you know, so it's quite natural for you to pick up a bit of speed. And of course, once you get going again on your joy, you're then bringing so many more opportunities in that you're trying to manage it. And so the last part of it is managing all these new threads. You know, the sixth house is absolutely synonymous with it being a little bit like hard work sometimes. But it's just that you've created more opportunities for yourself. Now, what was surprising for you over the last season was, whilst you were expressing yourself and learning more about your individuality, you were getting pushback from the people in your life. It's almost like you were learning more about manipulations, learning more about other people's neediness, learning a lot more about other people's big emotions that they can't quite keep to themselves, that are sort of impressing upon you. And you might find that this time of year is particularly rife for that. And ultimately, I think because of you developing your own individuality and the feelings of other people's disappointment coming in, or other people's expectations that felt quite heavy, the chances are towards the end of the last season, really what you wanted to do is feel that feeling of adventure, or feel that feeling of the ninth house and the third house, which is learning, growing, developing, moving, and being quite fluid, you know, moving around quite a lot. So I do think you're probably still in the mindset of reeling from the surprises of just how strong everyone's emotions really affected you, and actually how you much prefer people to keep their mouth shut a little bit. It's like, oh, you've got a problem, really, again. So I do think you've been taking responsibility for your own emotions, like where you've learned that other people can't quite hold their emotions in. You've been learning about the importance of taking responsibility for your emotions and working with them. And of course, you've had Chiron going through your own house as well. So yeah, through your own sign, that's pretty big. So again, the opportunity here is to rest and reassure yourself that when you're fully in command of your emotions, when you're fully engaged in healing yourself and giving yourself a bit of a break, things start to move again quite fast. Now, what you might want to watch out for in this season is that once again, you might gallop a little bit too fast into the future. So whilst you're really wanting to relax at home, the full moons, in particular, the full moon on the 22nd of June, and then the one on, let me tell you when, the 21st of July, they're both in the sign of Capricorn. They're both lighting up this part of your chart. And, you're likely to feel this impulse to be back working, back being industrious, back doing something. It's really difficult for you to just relax and unwind and give yourself that gift of softness and slowness and the opportunity to see where it all lands, see how it all relaxes, how it all drops into being. You are a human being, you're not a human doing, and yet these full moons are going to really test that out and almost be like a nemesis. So that's, I would say, the first thing to really watch out for. And then as you are starting to create, I think the joy of you expressing yourself brings about quite a bit of curiosity from other people. Again, in the same way that earlier this year, other people were almost observing what you were doing and wanting a piece of you, and or wanting to judge you and let you know how they thought about you. What you might find here is, as you're getting quite excited about the things you're creating, other people are wanting to have a piece of that. They're saying, oh, that's great. Well, let me do this and let me do that. And, there's a bit of a rush to connect with you. And you might not be ready for that. You might just want to enjoy yourself over, June, July, and into the beginning of August and September, and just take it a little bit more slowly. The final thing that I would say in terms of watching out for, and that's towards the end of this season, around the end of August, right the way through September, and that is the fact that around this time of year, the full moons, in particular, right at the end of, I'll just show you that, the full moon in Aquarius, right at the end of your 11th house. And then this one in particular, right at the end of this. And this is also the eclipse, the first eclipse of the next season on the 18th of September. It tends to bring us into quite a place of repose, a place where we're not so forward thinking. We're so focused on managing all of these opportunities that have come up, that by the time we get to the end of this season, that last full moon, that full moon in Pisces, takes us unaware. We might feel a little bit low energy, just as we're going into the next season, but it soon picks up again. But I guess what I would say is, around this time of year, that the opportunity for you is to realize the weight of other people's opinions, the weight of other people's expectations on how you need to be can be managed, and you've got the style, you've got the ability, and you've got the desire to manage it. In particular, I really draw I'm going to draw your attention to the new moons and what they might represent. So for instance, the new moon on the 5th of July in the sign of Cancer is really giving you a sense of optimism and faithfulness at home. It's actually reminding you of all the nice things at home and a nice new start that you might consider. Like, are you wanting to luxuriate at home? Are you wanting to create a new kind of regime at home? Are you wanting to commit more time to the people that you love? You know, to me, this is a time to celebrate the commitment that you have within your family. The new moon in Leo on the 4th of August is a time that's deeply creative and a time that's really encouraging you to start something new, you know, in particular, a new hobby, or to do something deeply creative, you know. I don't know what it is that captures your attention the most, but it's a time to play around. It's not a time to prescribe how this needs to be, but it's a time to be really experimental and just in the joy of doing it. And then the last full moon of this on the 3rd of September is really, really industrious. It's, you know, it's almost like you've relaxed, you've enjoyed yourself, you've had a little play, and then it's back to business. And it's just getting you sort of shaping up a little bit more as we head into the next season at the end of you know, towards the last 3rd of September. What's then coming out is just how social you are, and just how out there you are, and just how focused you are, and how people are noticing you a lot more. So you are actually in your most sort of internal side here, your most singular, like individually singular kind of focus. So you are coming out into the open from the next season. So, you know, what I would say is, let this be a time of experiment. Let this be a time of playfulness, and see what happens. Last thing that I would say, Aries Ascendant, and that is the Mercury retrograde. It starts in Virgo. You're 4 degrees in the sign of Virgo in your 6th house, and takes you back into creativity in the sign of Leo. To me, what that's implying is you don't want to be in too much of a rush to get too serious. You know, if you find yourself getting really, really serious at the beginning of September, at the end of August, what I would say is just remind yourself of some more fun. Just have more fun. Consider new ways of doing the things you like doing from a new fun perspective. Like, explore how you could. Here's the question you might want to ask yourself, and it's a good question that my friend Sarah always gives me. She's a top coach, by the way. She says, how much better can this get? How much more fun can you have? How much more joy can you experience in this right now? And when you start asking those kinds of questions, your unconscious mind really fires up. And of course, Mercury retrograde is all about the unconscious mind, the rewiring of the way you're thinking, so that you create a bigger opening for yourself. So there you go. I hope there's some useful pointers in terms of the season ahead, Aries Ascendant. Much love to you. Have a great one, and connecting with you real soon. And if it would be useful to have a reading with me, you can just find all my details below in the description of the video. Simply just book something in my diary, and we can take it from there. But anyway, lots and lots of love, and speak to you soon. Bye for now.